Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Well, a sea of red in the crypto markets, but there's been plenty of profitable trades to be had. Lots of news to get through in the crypto and macro world. We do welcome a few hundred new subscribers again this week, but let's get into the local news first. So Australia 108 Tower reportedly cracking here. If you're a resident or you have friends or family, I'd love to know more about this. Is this one of those situations that has been a little bit over dramatized, or is this starting to become a real problem? This is the world's the highest residential building in the southern hemisphere. Another controversial article was about low-income earners shouldn't have to contribute to superannuation, their retirement nest egg. Now, again, they're citing that it's making it harder for home ownership. And the problem is that housing is unaffordable. I'm not sure why we continue to try and tinker at the edges and do all these things to make it easier to get larger mortgages and more debt when we know that it's housing itself that is unaffordable. So let me know what you guys think of this one below. Personally, I think you have to take control of your own wealth and build that nest egg. We do love the support we get from New Brighton Capital, helping those people manage their self-managed super and get a small percentage of that into cryptocurrency if you think that is something that should be part of that nest egg long term. Over to our neighbors in China, where I've been reporting about that overnight banking lending rate being a sign that there's fear in the system. And sure enough, another bank here with $100 billion of assets is about to collapse. Now, obviously, the government will step in here and inject the liquidity as we've seen in the past. But, one by one, these banks just can't keep collapsing with all these assets. This is not good. And is it going to cause a domino effect? Now, we've been reporting about Carmageddon, and Nissan is the latest to slash 10,000 jobs, 7% of their workforce, as consumers cut back on spending. Over to Britain, where we did see Boris becoming the new PM. So this is being labelled as the British Trump, bit of a colourful character, and he has promised that Brexit that they've been waiting for a couple of years now. Now, the UK are the second largest contributor here, and this is why they want to maybe step out. But this paves the way for others. We've heard about, Italy and France being interested. Germany, the powerhouse economy of Europe, and yet there's negative interest rates there. So there's a lot of glue that's holding the EU together at the moment, but I believe they've got a lot of problems going forward. And it's been years since Mario Draghi did his whatever it takes speech as the central bank, and here we are, with more stimulus being promised. This is all reminiscent of what happened in Japan. You guys know the story there. Central bank's been stimulating for 20 or 30 years. And unfortunately, it looks like a lot of other major economies are going down that path. Now, I reported this story about how Google and Facebook are being cracked down on in Australia, but it's a similar story in the US. Now, both of these companies reported huge profits. Stock prices jumped. And people tend to be ignoring this privacy crackdown that's coming their way. A fantastic documentary. I watched The Great Hack. Highly recommend you guys check this out on Netflix, collecting up to 5,000 data points on every photo, on every individual. This is why these companies are so profitable. Now, Facebook have been forced to pay this $5 billion fine. Again, in the scheme of things, this is a bit of a slap on the wrist for them. And we know that Apple, Siri, all these devices around us are listening and collecting our data, and it is an intrusion of our privacy. I think this isn't the last we've heard of that issue. But when we look a little bit deeper into the economy, so corporate profits revised back to financial crisis lows. We know that a lot of that money that banks and corporations have been able to borrow at low interest rates has been spent on cash buybacks, and now that cash is starting to be used up. So one less thing that can prop up stock prices in the future. And India have actually started taxing those stock buybacks. So is the US going to do something similar? I'm not sure. I think Trump probably wouldn't be a big fan of that. But if we look at this National Activity Index, again, contracting for the longest streak since back in the GFC, and manufacturing PMI slumping to 10 years lows. Business outlook worst on record. So look, in the manufacturing sector, construction, cars, there's a lot going wrong. But at the other end of town, the big corporations, Facebook, Google, as I just mentioned, they're making a lot of money. And the number one thing that I've spoken about that is going to determine the future direction of the US stock market, the Aussie market, is this battle with their central banks. So the US GDP did come in slightly higher than expected. It's still going along okay at over 2%, but I think I literally said that as soon as the Fed cut rates again or look to cut rates, the stock market's going to break out to record highs. And sure enough, the market's had its tantrum. It's got its way. Whether we're in Australia or the US, these markets are breaking out because of the promise of lower interest rates and more money. So the market is pricing in 100% chance that the Fed is going to cut rates this week. It's just a question of whether they go the one or the two cuts. Now, if they don't cut at all, the market might have a bit of a tantrum, but I think they are going to have to cut rates no matter what, with the ECB promising stimulus, China injecting liquidity, Australia cutting rates. It's just putting too much pressure on the US dollar. But into the crypto news and the blockies for the first time. Myself as one of the board members of Blockchain Australia, we're happy to give out these industry awards. So make sure you read this article, check out all the winners. Congratulations. We've covered a lot of these on the channel before, and great to see the industry coming along nicely in our backyard and plenty of people attending that event up in Sydney there. We also heard that Curtin Uni over in Western Australia are going to be accepting Bitcoin for their PhD program. Now, I want to follow that story up. If you want to pay for your PhD, it better not be over $10,000. We know that this draft bill has been put through. We've got 16 days, I believe it is, left to have your say. This ban is on any cash payment over $10,000, and the wording to me, including digital currencies and digital payments, include cryptocurrencies from a few of the conversations I've had from the people in the know. So I think Martin North and John Adams are going to do a detailed piece on this soon. But unfortunately, you won't be able to use crypto to pay for high cost items by the look of it if this bill goes through. Most of you were probably already aware about the war on cash and the negative interest rates episode that I did a little while back. You have to be careful. We always talk about these crackdowns and the regulations, how the big companies and innovation will move away. And we saw Circle, relocate to Bermuda for the friendlier regulatory climate. So that's one thing that I really want the regulators to be mindful of as they do crack down. Now, another big giant, Robinhood, raised $323 million to further expand their no-fee trading app, giving traders and investors exposure to stocks and crypto. So really aggressive expansion. I think they want to try and corner more market share in this fast-growing space. Now, a little startup that I have been pretty excited about with my healthcare background is Shivam, and they have launched that MVP. So head over there and check that out. Clinical software as a service, data analytics. I think this platform can be very valuable going forward, and they have had their issues certainly in recent history. Now, another project that I have been really passionate about and promoting is Kyber. So this is one of the best ways to swap from token to token. They continue to integrate with some of the best wallets out there. Really underrated, and anyone that has used this service on MyEther wallet, straight from your hardware wallet, I think really raves about their no-fee ability to swap tokens. So please check that out if you haven't already. I did an interview with Lou the other day from Kyber. One of the things that excites me most is the DeFi movement itself, whether it's Kyber and those DEX trading. And we saw another great project called Fluidity introducing these tokenized asset portfolios. Now, what they're proposing here is using things such as US Treasury bonds as collateral for the Maker CPD loans. So rather than just having Ethereum backing it in the future, we're going to have DGX Gold, other tokens, and maybe even real world assets. So super exciting to see this all coming together. The best projects built on Ethereum. That DeFi space is really starting to grow aggressively. And I believe that is going to be the next wave of Ethereum's growth. So we're probably never going to see that ICO boom that really pushed ETH up. But so many tokens and STOs and other protocols are all leveraging Ethereum and building on top of it. We see German regulators approving $280 million sale there on top of Ethereum as well. So it's great to see the big boys acknowledging that this is the most trusted, most well-known platform out there. The other battle that we've really seen going on is with the stable coins. And my saying that every bank and corporation is going to try and issue their own coin because it is such a low cost way to launch your own currency. So top 10 Filipino bank becomes the latest to issue their own stable coin for payments and remittance. Iran is stepping back into the game and legalizing crypto mining. It's trying to get around sanctions, some people are saying. China have sort of cozied up to Bitcoin again this week. So it's so interesting to watch this dynamic play out around the US and the sanctions and some countries that are looking to ban crypto and then turn back to it, to bypass that. So never a dull day in crypto as these countries look to change their stance. So this is a story that caused a bit of a stir, Ripple dumping 250 million XRP tokens. But if we actually look a little bit deeper, I will go into defense of the Ripple company, because this is still lower than the inflation rate of some of the most common coins like Litecoin with that mining reward. So look, a bit of a clickbaity headline, but this is a step up. But the XRP and Ripple limited in how many new tokens they can sell into market each month there. Some good news for VeChain. We have a Chinese energy provider, EEN, deploying on the VeChain Thor technology. So VeChain was one that was really hyped up in 2017, but one by one they seem like they are partnering and getting that usage with real world companies. We know logistics and decentralizing that power grid is something that a lot of great projects are trying to tackle. Justin Sun and Tron. Well, wasn't this a big week? First, he was too sick to attend his lunch with Warren Buffett. Now he's come out and apologized for promoting and overhyping the project. It was immature conduct. I think he has got a pretty firm slap on the wrist from those regulators. We later saw that he did attend a Tron influencer party despite saying he was being too sick. So Tron was down 25% this week. This is one that I've been very critical of ever since they plagiarized their white paper with so many good platform projects out there. I think there's a fair bit of smoke and mirrors going on, but if you're a Tron holder, let me know what you think in the comments below. Am I wrong on that one? Over to the US, where I'd love to hear from you guys if you received one of these letters from the IRS. So 10,000 letters sent out to investors. I believe there's 3 different types. One saying, we're aware that you have crypto. Another one saying, we're aware that you should have maybe paid some tax on your crypto you haven't reported, and a third one saying, hey, we believe you're up to no good, and basically sort it out straight away. So again, let me know if you guys have had one of those. I think this is going to be something that continues to go into the headlines after we saw Coinbase have to hand over a lot of users' details from a couple of years ago. Now, this was a little company I hadn't heard of, online shopping app Lolly. So expanding their number of stores that can give you a rebate if you spend there. So up to the tune of 3.5%, I believe it was, crypto rebates in their 900 retail stores. So if you know more about this one and you've used it, if you're keen to get that return on your Bitcoin for online purchases, let me know in the comments below. But this is a great example of that hidden fee that Visa and MasterCard, other payment systems have in the background, where the merchants get hit with that 2 or 3%. So these companies are preferring to accept Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and passing on the discount to you, the end consumer. Now, I want to talk about price action because there were calls of manipulation and Bart Simpson patterns, but this was actually very tradable and 2 of the most profitable trades we've had for a long time. I posted this for our members that I believe we're about to break out from this 4-hour downtrend, and we saw that big move higher. That were very profitable there. I then hopped online and did a live video update because I saw another opportunity opening up. I was hoping that this would get a follow through and the next leg higher, but when we didn't, and I have done detailed videos about bull flags and continuation patterns in the member tutorials, when we saw this little sell off here, that was that red flag to me, and I did jump on live and say, hey, I think this could turn into a Bart Simpson pattern. There could be a dump coming, and I've actually flipped short here, and you guys know what happened next. We got that big dump. So look, I know people are screaming manipulation, but I really think this was a case of the technicals playing out in these markets that are volatile. When there's a lot of people watching them, particularly on weekends, they can get pushed around either way. When we know there's a lot of people that are leveraged long at the moment, and we can get these squeezes to the downside. So I just want to zoom out now to that daily chart. let's talk about what's happening long term, because last week we were mindful of our cycle brackets pushing up on the 20th of July, and we just hit the moving averages here, and we were being mindful of if we got rejected straight away. So that tells us that this downtrend should continue. We have also lost this other uptrend which led to that spill. So now I think the odds are that the weakness does continue out to somewhere around the 6th of August. After such a huge dump, we are likely to have some sort of relief rally here, which we're sort of seeing playing out. But the area that I want to talk about is this. Let's just zoom out back to the daily there. I think that this area where we spend a lot of time and trading volume is where you're going to see a lot of buyers start to step in pretty aggressively. So anywhere from the 8,800 to 7,800, I might keep that box on there. I know for a fact that a lot of the big accounts, the trading groups, the whales are going to look to step in here. So unless something fundamentally changes, we get some really bad news out of the US, some new regulations, I think this is that end of the correction into that sort of 40% mark, which is very normal. We know we got overheated. We've been looking for this RSI to cool off. It's just all a very healthy correction in my mind, guys. So let me know what you think about that again in the comments below. And if you do want to join us and stay ahead of the herd, head over to nuggetsnews.com.au, where we have a range of free services and our premium education. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, share these videos around, and I'll talk to you again soon. Cheers.